Okay, so we had Iceland head of state Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir. I put in that Iceland is in the top 14 safest countries. I'm Izzy Danielson. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm in my senior year at UNO. I'll be graduating in the spring. I'm a criminal justice major with a women, gender, and sexuality studies minor.
I'm Hannah Heineman. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a junior, I'm a math major, and a women gender studies minor.
I'm Rachel Shoemaker. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a women's and gender study major and public health minor, and I'm a fourth year student, but not graduating.
So Katrín was born February 1st, 1976 in Reykjavik, Iceland. She graduated from the University of Iceland in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in Icelandic and a minor in French, and then went back in 2004 to get her master's in Icelandic literature. Her previous jobs, she was a language advisor, she freelanced for broadcast media, she wrote for print media, she was an instructor in lifelong learning and leisure. She did editorial work, and she lectured at 3 different universities, one of which was the University of Iceland, where she attended. In 2003, she became deputy chairperson for the Left Green movement, and then moved up to chairperson in 2013, and she currently holds that position now. She became prime minister in 2017, and she serves as the chair of Council of Women World Leaders. So why we chose this leader, Hannah and our group had personal connections to someone in Iceland that we figured could help us out had we needed it. We all also liked the way she handled COVID, how she believed in gender equality, and how she wants to restore confidence and faith in politicians, especially in times like these. So obstacles Katrín overcame. Iceland has had only 2 women before Katrín holds such high power. She started her position as prime minister in a very split political landscape. That being said, people started to create anti-establishment parties because of past politicians from Iceland, so she had to go in dealing with that. People say her weakness is she avoids confrontation, and COVID in itself was an obstacle since no other leader before her had to deal with something like this.
Okay, so her leadership styles are charismatic and transactional. You can see these leadership approaches through the trust that she's established mutually with the society that she leads in. She also keeps society well informed with what's going on, especially now with COVID-19. She encourages people to speak out if they feel that something is wrong. And she's also motivated herself to reach a goal, and she also encourages society to do the same. And overall, her communication and motivation are her two biggest biggest personality factors that give her these leadership approaches. So putting these practices into Omaha, establishing trust would be probably a big one for us, as we don't see a whole lot of that right now. With COVID especially, we could use some of her tactics that she's used, like excessive testing, quarantine, isolation, sequencing and tracing of data and results, and mutual trust and of scientific recommendations and what they say needs to happen. Overall, we could really use the collaboration with other countries that she is pretty big about, and respect for her citizens' needs is a big priority for her, and just trust between society and with herself and other leaders. What we could learn is, again, her handlement of the pandemic has been pretty impressive, and the trust that she has gained between herself and society. The collaboration with other communities, and she leads a very strong public health system, and she's also open to communication and ideas from other countries, and she stays informed about what is coming, like as far as new data and new results that they're seeing with COVID-19.
So the first male head of state that we researched was Stefan Löfven, the Prime Minister of Sweden. He has been Prime Minister since 2014 and is described as a Swedish labor leader and social democrat. Stefan grew up in the foster care system and started his path of leadership when he became president of the Swedish Workers' Union. His first priorities as Prime Minister were the reduction of unemployment rates and the improvement to education and social security. With regards to COVID, Sweden has taken a unique approach as they have chosen the tactic of herd immunity. There was little shutdown in an attempt to that most of the population would get COVID and then hopefully become immune. In this beach picture below, it shows that there weren't that many mandatory COVID precautions. The reasoning behind this tactic was that Sweden didn't want to change their daily life. But in consequence, Sweden has a 6.1% fatality rate and 282 deaths per million people. Overall, it has the 14th worst rate of COVID deaths, which is, and they're also among the worst in the Nordic region. So the next male leader we researched was Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. He has been in the higher rankings of the government since 1999, and the Encyclopedia Britannica described Putin's goals as president. He sought to end corruption and create strongly regulated market economy. However, his autocratic leadership style and struggle between power and leadership, he produced a level of mistrust towards the government. This was especially seen in the COVID combat. Russia took precautions early and entered shutdown, but it still produced high rates of mortality. They are now experiencing their second wave of the pandemic and are announcing their restrictions will lift soon. However, the mistrust in the government causes questions about COVID precautions, and the citizens seem to not completely trust their president. The Foreign Policy magazine states, the Russian government cares more about the optics than about the real state of affairs. Doctors who decree the catastrophic shortage of personal protective equipment are being forced to take their words back or even make public apologies. So next for the comparisons. Sweden took the unpopular approach of herd immunity, using laissez-faire tactics in hopes that the virus moves through the population till they are immune. However, they are still in the leading of the death charts of COVID. Russia closed down early. However, Iceland was more effective and fast in their shutdown. Russia is now in the second wave of the virus, but announced that they would be lifting restrictions, which won't bode well in the future. Iceland experienced different outcomes with COVID as Jakobsdottir took early and more decisive measures on shutdowns. This decisiveness resulted in low and currently declining death rates, and Jakobsdottir approach created trust with her leadership and patience throughout the COVID inconveniences on the path to eradication of COVID, not just control of it.
So I wanted to throw in a fun fact that Katrine was in a music video over 20 years ago where she played a femme fatale. The song was called Listen Baby by Bang Gang. It's an Icelandic band, and they're from Reykjavik, which is where Katrine's hometown was. So I'm assuming that's why she was in the music video. I wanted to throw in this information just because I feel like it kind of shines a light on her personality and how relatable she is to the public. So the rest below, as you'll see on our actual project, is just citations for our information and for our pictures. So that's the end.